Welcome to the evaluation of my A2 Media project, Today's Big Decision. My name is Phoebe Wade and I'm the author of my short film. There are certain codes and conventions criteria that make a short film exactly that. A key aspect of a short film is its length, which is outlined in the title, short. Typically, the length of such films can vary between 1 to 10 minutes and can even span up to 35 minutes. The length of them makes them fast-paced. An example of such would be Connected, which is 7 minutes and 30 seconds long, and therefore fits the common convention. Similarly, my short film fits the convention as it's just shy of 3 minutes. Another convention is a twist within the film which makes it more exciting to the viewer. The twists are usually abnormal but set in an ordinary setting. For example, the black hole, which was set in the office. This creates almost a fantasy. I manipulated this convention slightly as there was still a twist incorporated into my short film, the idea of either being tea or coffee. However, this does not create a fantasy, rather sparks humour and provokes a response. Moreover, a convention is to use less than 3 cast members, due to the fact that there's just simply not the time to develop the character profiles. For example, in Horseshoe, there's one actor who plays multiple roles. Likewise, in my short film, I'll be having 2 main characters who will be the Prime Minister, played by Nicholas Wade, and his PA, played by me. The budgets for short films are normally kept to a minimum, due to the directors typically being independent and therefore lack sufficient funding. This is achieved through using minimal locations and a small cast. For example, in Waiting, it was located in one house. Similarly, although my film was shot in a 4-star hotel, which was Swinfen Hall, it was free due to the generosity of the owners. Alongside my main product, my print artefacts also use, develop and challenge forms and conventions of real media products. I first defined codes and conventions of a film review by creating a double-page spread for my short film. Typically, it's only big cinema releases like The Hobbit, which get splashed across 2 pages, as they are most commonly the films that the consumers are eager to read about, and consequently they sell more magazines. A convention of a 2-page film review in magazines such as Empire is to use the feature of a main image from the film. An example of this would be Brave, where it grasps a close-up shot of the main character, Princess Merida, which entices the audience into the film and anchors the text's meaning. In context to Brave, this also conveys the style of the film, which is animated. Similarly, in my review, I featured a picture from the film. This shows the main character and hints to the location. An information box is typically featured within the articles. This gives the audience concise information about the film, allowing a potential reader to get the gist of the film as to whether they want to continue watching it or to continue reading the article. Likewise, on my spread I have incorporated a fact box, giving the main details such as the release date. Another convention is to use a minimal colour palette on the print artefacts. Like on The Hobbit's 2-page spread, it has a colour scheme of white, black and orange. Similarly, I have used this convention by sticking to a colour scheme of white, black and yellow. So the information and pictures and text remain still the main feature. I defied conventions of using less than 3 images on a double-page spread, unlike the 2-page spread for Evil Dead, which only contained 1 picture. Contrastingly, I've incorporated 4 pictures within my spread, yet I feel this is justifiable as they are small pictures and don't limit the amount of information still displayed on the page. A convention of film posters is to lay the title prominently on the page. For example, the poster for Super 8 had the title in the centre of the page and white, bold font on the black background. Similarly, on my poster for Today's Big Decision, the title is in bold font, making it stand out clearly. However, I defied the convention slightly by putting this down the side of the page. Another convention of a film poster is to have a slogan about the film on the poster to hint to the audience what the film is about. For example, on the poster for That's My Boy, it features the slogan, the story of a child and his son. This anchors the picture's meaning, which is funny. Likewise, I feature a slogan on my poster stating a conclusion after a careful consideration, which alludes to the meaning of the film. A further convention is to use a picture to represent the film's meaning and characters. An example of this would be on the Smurfs poster, which illustrates a picture of the characters, which are cartoons, within it, and their location in the city. I also feature a main picture on my film poster, which shows the main character and hints to the wealthy location. My actor is also seen in a moment of thought, again highlighting the point of the film. On the poster for The Life of Pi, it contains a quote from the Times saying, "It's a visual miracle." This makes the audience wish to watch the film as it has received such positive feedback. Similarly, on my poster I feature a quote from the Melford Times. Typically, the title of films create almost a logo for the film. I conform to this by using the same title style for both the poster and for the article. Yet I've adapted this slightly by not using the title at the start of my film, due to the fact that I felt it juxtaposed the effect that I wished to create, as it was yellow and bright and therefore not demonstrating seriousness and a big decision. It's imperative that the ancillary texts illustrate the main product, as if this were not to occur then they would give the wrong impression about the film and could dismiss potential audiences. In order to show a connection between all of my projects, I used similar pictures. In fact, one of the pictures was the same for the poster and for the film review. This tied them all together and continued to show their link. I wanted to replicate the mystery and air of a big decision throughout all of my products, and therefore the tea and coffee joke did not feature on any of the products apart from at the end of the film review and at the end of my film. The pictures on my print artefacts anchored the text by being dramatic, and I did this through changing the darkness of the images. And I've achieved similarities between my poster and two-page spread by sticking to the same font. This generic text used throughout meant that the text was clear and the same proportion, allowing it to be clear to read for the audiences. And also my title was the same on both products, but this does not feature in my film, rather a new design, as I felt that otherwise it would not give the correct effect of my film, as said earlier. Another continuous link is the idea of concealing the genre of the short film. I did this by not adding any comical elements onto the artefacts. For example, I used the definition of decision, which rather created tension and made it look like the main character, who was displayed on the poster, was making a life-changing decision. And also, only at the end of the review did I warn about the twist, and I similarly did this at the end of my film, where the twist was unveiled. And this was a bit like Tune for Two. I used binary opposites to create interest for the film through using the contrast of tea or coffee scenario. And although this was at the end, it still performs the function of enigma. The visual codes on all of my products are effective. For example, the Prime Minister is wearing a suit, and therefore the audience immediately stereotype him as being important. In order to get valuable feedback, I enlisted the help of my media class. This consisted of 14 students aged 17 to 18 years old. I created a mini screening of my film, print artefacts and blog, going through it in depth, ensuring that the audience could give me valuable responses. My feedback consisted of an array of questions asking about my products. There were some multiple choice questions and some open-ended questions, which gave the audience the ability to expand and inform me further on where I could improve. The general consensus was positive, with comments such as professional and creative. As well as this, they gave me constructive feedback, which was really valuable and allowed me to adjust parts of my film and edit the print artefacts, which hopefully in turn would make them more preferable to my desired audience. An example of one of the improvements was the clarity of the Prime Minister's logo. On the filming of the big decision, the logos weren't as clear due to the light contrast, and therefore I changed this slightly, and this helped make the logos more visually appealing. Another issue highlighted was the speed at the titles at the end of my projection. To rectify this, I slowed the speed down, which made it more clear to read and helped the production end on a good note. Another issue raised that the Kingdom Studios logo at the end of my film was unclear. However, after re-looking at the film, the problem was the reflection of the projector rather than it actually not being able to be seen on the actual film. An example of one of the multiple choice questions asked was, how would you rate the success of your production in terms of the following codes and conventions of a short film? Now, this can be demonstrated on a pie chart. 71% of people gave me excellent for this, and 21% of people gave me good. And I think this demonstrates that the codes and conventions I researched were good, and I successfully achieved these in my short film production, The Big Decision. From the evidence on the blog, they were also asked a question saying how successfully well planned it was, and for this I got 13 people saying it was excellent and one person saying it was good, which again is really positive feedback. They were also asked a question about how imaginative was my short film, and 79% of people gave me high imagination and creative flair. Within the audience feedback, they were also asked about the technical aspects of my film, and as shown on the graph, the majority of people said they were excellent for most aspects, apart from editing and the use of fonts within my production. These were expanded by a few outlining that I should have had some more font throughout the film, and I accept this, but I felt that there was just nothing to write, and therefore I did not enact on this. The comments on the editing were also expanded on, saying that the logos were not as clear and they were too bright. So I went back and looked at some of the other logos as well, but again it was just seemed to be because of the brightness of the projector rather than the actual film footage. And therefore I just left it as it was, because it was quite clear if they were shot, if they were viewed on another screen. A few extra comments suggested that the soundtrack should have also been reduced, so it was more clear when the Prime Minister was talking, and therefore I just adjusted some of the levels of sound in these areas. So I raised the Prime Minister's voice and I lowered the soundtrack. Being a media student in this present modern society has been extremely helpful when constructing, researching, planning and evaluating my projects. I have to completely acknowledge the media technology I have used, as without such technology I would not have been able to produce authentic products. Over the past months I have compiled my work onto the blog using Blogger. I feel that I have not expanded my knowledge much from the AS year, however I definitely have created more posts and incorporated more detail and depth, as well as integrating new media technologies to complete this, such as Prezi. In the planning stages of my products, media technology has been a prominent feature throughout the process. An example is the internet, which gave me a breadth of information at my fingertips. Google Chrome allowed me to search for websites such as Short of the Week, meaning I could access a wide range of short films from one place. This meant that I could analyse them looking at certain codes and conventions. Also, what types of short films were out there presently to see whether there was a space in the market for my short film. Moreover, I used search engines such as Google Advanced, which allowed me to narrow down my searches so I retrieved only relevant information. For example, when searching about what an auteur was, I could choose to only display information from recently, such as from only a year back. I also use search engines such as Bing Images, which allowed me to search for relevant pictures using the search bar, and an extra search tool which allowed me to select certain profiles of pictures, and this helped me when I was getting visual aids to anchor text on my blog. For example, finding a picture of the Prime Minister to see how he was dressed, I found on Bing Images, which allowed me to get my actor to fit that look. Using Prezi also allowed me to collate all of my ideas into one rounded zoom-in canvas. I used this software when compiling all of my ideas on what I was going to create. For example, either a short film, a music video, a documentary, or a game advert. And this made my mind maps clear and interesting. Microsoft Office has also featured within my work. For example, I used Word and Excel. Word allowed me to draft some of my work, such as my script, as well as create my questionnaires. Moreover, Excel allowed me to create tables and graphs when I was interpreting that audience feedback. Adobe Premiere was the string which tied all of my clips together. I expanded my knowledge from previous years. For example, due to not being able to shoot all of my clips at the same time, we began at 10 and finished at 2. The lighting in the room of Swinfen Hall was different due to there being large windows as the brightness was coming in at different times. Therefore, it was hard to portray the illusion of them all being shot in one continuous sequence. Therefore, through using Adobe Premiere, I was able to adjust the brightness and contrast of some of the clips to make sure that it looked like it was one sequence. I also used various different edits to get my desired outcome. For example, I used Gamma to give the images more tone and shading to make them look more effective and realistic, as the camera did not pick up some of the shadows in the shots. My iPhone 5 also allowed me, upon my visit to Swinfen Hall, to capture pictures of the location and setting. This meant that I could then record these areas where I was going to film and ensure they were how I required them to be. I was then able to upload these onto my blog for future reference. The Sony HD camera with a resolution of 8.9 megapixels in photo mode enabled me to capture precise and powerful shots of still objects as well as moving ones. I could then transfer these onto my computer using the SD card. With some of my shots, like the shot of the Prime Minister at the window, I needed a medium shot. However, this was not possible as there was no level for me to stand on outside the window. Despite this, with the camera's technology, it enabled me to still achieve such shots using the 30 times optical zoom. Therefore, I could stand outside the building and film from a distance and just zoom in order to achieve my medium shot. In addition to this, there's a 3-inch LCD screen on the side which enabled me to control the appearance of my shots, as well as look back on some of the shots to ensure that they were how I required. As well as being a camcorder, I was also able to shoot still shots, which enabled me to capture pictures of where I needed to refilm so that I could make sure it looked like one continuous sequence and nothing was out of place. Also, the memory of the camera allowed me to store over 1 gig of footage, which meant that I could proceed filming without constantly stopping to upload footage. Adobe Illustrator CS5 is an image creator software which allowed me to create my print artifacts in a CMYK format. I use the software to, for example, change today's big decision title or logo on both of my print artefacts into an outline. This then allowed me to manipulate the text like a graphic. I could then click on the vector graph and edit the graphic using the anchor points so that I could, for example, stretch the title to make it look longer. I could also use a range of type tools such as the area type tool, which limited me to just typing in certain shapes that I'd made. I used the direct selection point in order to select parts within an object, which then allowed me to adjust the shape. Plus, to create extra angles on some of my shapes, I used the Add Anchor Point tool, which allowed me to manipulate further parts of the shape. I also used tools such as the Ellipse tool and Rectangle tool to draw such shapes, which then I could layer onto my work, adding interest. Plus, I made the stars using the pen tool and then creating multiple straight line segments. Furthermore, I used various reshaping tools, such would include using the shear tool, so that then I could twist the shapes round on a fixed point. I could then save my work as different formats like an API and a PDF, and this technology helped me to create realistic products.